I need to see your ID, now.
Officer, I'm standing in my own driveway. You have no legal authority.
I don't need a lecture from you. You're being detained.
Then you're violating my Fourth Amendment rights, and I'm documenting every second of this.
At exactly 3:47 p.m. on a quiet Saturday afternoon in Riverside County, California, what should have been a simple misunderstanding turned into a constitutional crisis. The body camera footage would later go viral, racking up over 18 million views across social media platforms. But this wasn't your typical police misconduct video. This was different. This was a civil rights attorney who knew exactly what was happening to him and exactly how to fight back. What happened next would shock the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, spark a federal investigation, and prove that even in your own driveway, the color of your skin can make you a suspect. Before we continue, can you do me a favor? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. This story gets even more intense, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Marcus Thompson was not your average 34-year-old. While most people his age were climbing corporate ladders or paying off student loans, Marcus was fighting for justice in federal courtrooms. Marcus was a graduate of Howard University School of Law, top 5% of his class. He specialized in civil rights litigation for 8 years. He had represented clients in police misconduct cases in 3 states. He was a published legal scholar with articles in the Harvard Civil Rights Civil Liberties Law Review, and he was known in legal circles for his encyclopedic knowledge of constitutional law, particularly the Fourth Amendment. Marcus didn't just know the law, he lived it. He breathed it. He'd spent the last 8 years of his career defending people whose rights had been violated by law enforcement. He'd argued before federal judges, cross-examined police chiefs, and won settlements totaling millions of dollars. But on this Saturday afternoon, all that knowledge would be put to the ultimate test. Not in a courtroom, not behind a desk, but in his own driveway. On July 15, 2023, Marcus Thompson was doing what thousands of Americans do on Saturday afternoons, washing his car. The California sun hung high over the quiet suburban neighborhood of Woodcrest, painting long shadows across perfectly manicured lawns. Marcus's 2-story colonial home sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, a silver BMW gleaming in the driveway as he ran a soapy sponge across its hood. Everything was peaceful. Kids rode bicycles down the street. A neighbor 2 houses down trimmed hedges. The sound of a lawnmower hummed in the distance. Marcus wasn't worried. He was simply enjoying a rare day off, listening to jazz through his wireless earbuds, thinking about the brief he'd be filing on Monday. Marcus wasn't speeding, he wasn't trespassing, he wasn't disturbing the peace. He wasn't violating any ordinance, breaking any law, or causing any problem. He was simply washing his car in his own driveway on property he'd purchased 3 years earlier, following every rule exactly as written. Then came the knock. A neighbor Marcus had never met, a woman who'd moved in 6 months earlier, approached the patrol car of Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy Robert Kendricks, who happened to be driving through the neighborhood. She told him there was suspicious activity at the house on the corner. What was suspicious? A black man washing an expensive car. Marcus's heart didn't race with panic. It raced with recognition. He'd seen this pattern dozens of times in case files, depositions, and police reports. He knew exactly what was happening, and he knew exactly what to do. The officer who pulled into Marcus's driveway was Deputy Robert Kendricks, a 19-year veteran with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. He had over 2,000 civilian contacts under his belt. This was routine for him, or so he thought. What Deputy Kendricks didn't know was that the man standing before him had spent 8 years studying officers just like him. The patrol car's door opened. Deputy Kendricks stepped out, his hand resting casually on his belt near his service weapon. "Afternoon," Kendricks said, his tone already carrying that unmistakable edge of authority mixed with suspicion. "You live here?" Marcus set down the sponge and turned, water dripping from his hands. "Yes, officer. Is there a problem?" This is where things started to go wrong for Deputy Kendricks. The question was simple, reasonable. But to Kendricks, it sounded like defiance. "I'll ask the questions," Kendricks said. "I need to see some identification." Now, here's what most people don't understand about this moment. In the United States, police cannot demand identification without reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed, is being committed, or is about to be committed. Standing in your own driveway, that's not a crime. Deputy Kendricks had no legal authority to demand ID, and Marcus knew it. Marcus remained calm, his attorney training kicking in immediately. "Officer, with all due respect, I don't have to provide identification. I'm on my own property, and I'm not suspected of any crime. Am I being detained?" The body camera captured Kendricks's face tightening, his jaw clenched. "I need to see your ID," Kendricks repeated, louder this time. "On what legal basis?" Marcus asked, his voice still steady. Under Terry versus Ohio, you need reasonable, articulable suspicion of criminal activity to detain me. What crime do you suspect me of committing? This is where Marcus made his first strategic move. By citing Terry versus Ohio, the landmark 1968 Supreme Court case that established the legal standard for police stops, he was sending a clear message. I'm not just another civilian. I know the law. The body camera captured Kendricks taking a small step back. You could see his eyes narrow. He was realizing something was different here. Sir, I received a call about suspicious activity at this address, Kendricks said. What suspicious activity? Marcus asked immediately. Someone reported, someone who doesn't belong in this neighborhood. The words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd heard these coded phrases before. Someone who doesn't belong meant one thing in this context. Officer, I've owned this home for 3 years. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of California. I'm washing my car in my own driveway. There's nothing suspicious about that unless you're making assumptions based on my race. This is the moment. Marcus had just said the quiet part out loud. He'd named it racial profiling. Most officers, when called out like this, will de-escalate. They'll apologize, say there was a misunderstanding, and leave. Deputy Kendricks wasn't most officers. I don't see color, Kendricks snapped, his voice rising. I'm conducting a lawful investigation. Now show me your ID or you're going to be detained. I'm already being detained, Marcus said. The moment you blocked my driveway with your patrol car and demanded my ID, I was seized under the Fourth Amendment. But you don't have reasonable suspicion, which makes this an illegal detention. Deputy Kendricks's hand moved to his handcuffs. Turn around, hands behind your back. On what charge? Obstructing an investigation. Let's pause here. Obstructing an investigation is one of the most abused charges in law enforcement. It's often used as a catch-all when an officer doesn't have actual grounds for arrest. But here's the problem. You cannot obstruct an investigation that has no legal basis. Marcus knew this, and he knew what was about to happen was going to cost Riverside County a fortune. Quick question for you watching. Have you ever been stopped by police for doing something completely legal? Drop a comment below and share your story. This is the moment everything changed. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm recording this interaction, he said clearly. For the record, I'm Marcus Thompson, attorney at law. I'm standing in my own driveway at 1247 Oakmont Drive. I have not committed any crime. I have not been given reasonable suspicion. This officer is violating my constitutional rights. Kendricks lunged for the phone. You can't record me! California is a two-party consent state for private conversations, but this is a public official performing public duties. Fordyce versus City of Seattle, Glick versus Cuniff, Turner versus Driver. I have an absolute First Amendment right to record this. The body camera shows Kendricks grabbing Marcus's wrist. Marcus doesn't resist, doesn't pull away. He simply says clearly and calmly, "You are now committing battery. I am not resisting. I am complying under duress. Every second of this is being documented." Deputy Kendricks had never encountered someone like this. Most people he dealt with were scared, confused, angry. They yelled. They argued emotionally. They made mistakes. Marcus wasn't making any mistakes. He had turned his own arrest into a legal deposition. The handcuffs clicked shut. Marcus was placed in the back of the patrol car. "What's the charge?" Marcus asked again. "Resisting arrest and obstructing justice." "How can I resist arrest if there was no lawful basis for arrest in the first place?" "That's false arrest, officer, and you're going to need a very good lawyer." The patrol car door slammed shut. The entire encounter had lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes that would change Deputy Kendricks's life forever. In the patrol car, on the 14-minute drive to the Riverside County Sheriff's Station, something happened. Deputy Kendricks made a call. His supervisor. The body camera was still recording. "Yeah, I've got a 415 who refused to ID, arrested for obstruction. No, he wasn't actually doing anything illegal. He was washing his car in his own driveway. He says he's a lawyer." A long pause. "Yeah, he cited like 5 different court cases. He recorded the whole thing." Another pause. "His name? Marcus Thompson." The longest pause yet. "Are you serious? The Marcus Thompson?" The body camera shows Kendricks's eyes in the rearview mirror, looking at Marcus for the first time with something other than suspicion. It was fear. Because Kendricks's supervisor had just told him something that made his blood run cold. Marcus Thompson had won a $4.2 million settlement against the Los Angeles Police Department 2 years earlier for almost exactly this kind of violation. In the back seat, Marcus spoke clearly toward the body camera. "For the record, I've just heard Deputy Kendricks learn my identity. I want to state clearly that my profession is irrelevant. Whether I'm an attorney or an unemployed high school dropout, I have the same constitutional rights. The Fourth Amendment doesn't require a law degree. But yes, I am an attorney. Yes, I specialize in police misconduct. And yes, I know exactly how this is going to end. Marcus was absolutely correct, and everyone in that car knew it. At the station, Marcus was processed, booked, fingerprinted, photographed. He never raised his voice, never became emotional, never threatened anyone. He simply asked for his phone call. The call wasn't to a family member. It wasn't to a friend. It was to his law partner, the one who specialized in federal civil rights litigation. And he said 9 words that would echo through the Riverside County legal system for the next 2 years. Start the paperwork. Full Fourth Amendment violation. Everything's recorded. The entire encounter, from driveway to jail cell, had lasted 2 hours and 17 minutes. 2 hours and 17 minutes that would cost Riverside County $2.8 million. Now, most people who have been arrested might get a lawyer and hope for the best. Maybe they'd file a complaint. Maybe they'd tell their story to the local news. But Marcus Thompson wasn't most people. Before his shift even ended that night, Deputy Kendricks' supervisor received an email. It wasn't from Marcus. It was from Thompson and Associates, one of the most respected civil rights law firms in California. The email wasn't just a complaint. It was a 47-page pre-litigation notice. It was the kind of document that a federal judge would read. It was thorough, professional, and completely devastating. It contained a minute-by-minute breakdown of the constitutional violations, citations to 23 different federal court precedents, screenshots from the body camera footage with legal annotations, a demand for immediate release and expungement of all charges, and notice of intent to file a federal civil rights lawsuit under Title 42, United States Code, Section 1983. This wasn't a complaint from an angry citizen. This was a legal nuclear weapon. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department received Marcus's pre-litigation notice on a Monday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, all charges against Marcus Thompson had been dropped. This wasn't normal. Usually, these processes take months just to get started. But Marcus's documentation was so detailed and so damning that the county's attorneys couldn't ignore it. Do you think dropping the charges was enough? Let me know in the comments. Within a week, the Sheriff's Department opened an internal investigation. Captain Teresa Rodriguez pulled every piece of footage. Deputy Kendricks' body camera, the dash cam, nearby security cameras from Marcus's neighbors. She watched it once, then she watched it again. Then she brought in the department's legal counsel to watch it with her. The footage confirmed everything Marcus had claimed in his notice. The investigation documented illegal detention without reasonable suspicion, unlawful demand for identification on private property, false arrest on fabricated charges, Fourth Amendment violation through unreasonable seizure, possible First Amendment violation through interference with recording, and battery when grabbing Marcus's wrist without legal justification. But there was something else in the footage that made this case even more serious. On the body camera, right before Deputy Kendricks grabbed Marcus's wrist, you can hear him mutter something under his breath. Audio forensics cleaned it up, enhanced it. The words were, "These people think they can..." He never finished the sentence, but "these people" was enough. It wasn't just a constitutional violation anymore. It was a pattern of discriminatory policing. The investigation took 43 days in total. That's incredibly fast for this type of investigation. Most take 6 months to a year, but the evidence was so clear and Marcus's legal filing was so thorough that there wasn't much to investigate. Everything was documented, everything was recorded, everything was undeniable. The Sheriff's Department's Internal Affairs Division released a 12-page findings report. Deputy Kendricks violated department policy on reasonable suspicion. Deputy Kendricks violated department policy on detention procedures. Deputy Kendricks violated the Fourth Amendment rights of Marcus Thompson. Deputy Kendricks made an arrest without probable cause. Deputy Kendricks' actions exposed the county to significant civil liability. The department recommended immediate termination. But before the sheriff could fire him, Deputy Robert Kendricks resigned. His 19-year career ended because of an 11-minute encounter in a suburban driveway. He would never work in law enforcement again. The sheriff's department initially fought to keep the body camera footage from being released to the public. Marcus's legal team filed a California Public Records Act request. The county denied it, citing an ongoing investigation. Marcus's team appealed. The county stalled. Then Marcus did something brilliant. He released his own phone recording, the one Deputy Kendricks tried to grab. When the video hit the internet, it exploded. Within 48 hours, it had 18 million views across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News all covered it. Legal experts broke it down frame by frame on social media. Law schools started using it in constitutional law classes as a textbook example of Fourth Amendment violations. Some people praised Marcus for knowing his rights and staying calm. Others criticized him for not just cooperating. Some said he was looking for a lawsuit. Others said he was exercising his constitutional rights. But here's what nobody could deny. Marcus was right about everything. Every legal citation he gave was accurate. Every constitutional argument was sound. Every prediction he made came true. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department made some major changes after this incident. They implemented new mandatory training on Fourth Amendment rights and reasonable suspicion. They revised policies on requesting identification on private property. They enhanced body camera policies requiring officers to state legal basis for detention. They created a civilian oversight committee to review misconduct complaints. And they established annual implicit bias training for all deputies. Essentially, they made their officers take the kind of training that Marcus could have taught. After the footage went viral, several other people came forward with similar complaints about Deputy Kendricks. Turns out this wasn't an isolated incident. Over the next 3 months, attorneys filed complaints alleging 6 other questionable stops in predominantly black neighborhoods, 3 complaints of racial profiling, and 2 previous instances of arrests later dismissed by prosecutors. This raises another question. How many other officers are out there with similar patterns that haven't been exposed? Marcus Thompson went on to file a federal civil rights lawsuit against Riverside County and Deputy Kendricks personally. In May 2024, Riverside County agreed to settle for $2.8 million. Marcus donated $500,000 of that settlement to legal defense funds for people who can't afford attorneys when their rights are violated. He launched a nonprofit organization called Know Your Rights Academy that provides free legal education to communities about constitutional rights during police encounters. He continues to practice civil rights law and has since won 3 more major settlements against police departments in California. As of now, Robert Kendricks no longer works in law enforcement. According to public records, he relocated to another state and works in private security. Here's a question for you. If you were in Marcus's situation, would you have handled it the same way? Comment below. Let's talk about the bigger picture here. This story isn't just about Marcus Thompson and Robert Kendricks. It's about the assumption of criminality based on race. It's about the abuse of authority when people think no one is watching or no one will fight back. It's about how the Constitution is supposed to protect everyone, but in practice doesn't always work that way. The moment that neighbor reported suspicious activity, she made an assumption based on one thing: a black man in an expensive car in her neighborhood. She assumed he didn't belong. She assumed he was a threat. She never considered he might live there, work there, or have every right to be there. Deputy Kendricks assumed his badge gave him unlimited power. He assumed that demanding ID, making threats, and ultimately arresting someone without cause would go unchallenged. He assumed people would comply out of fear, not knowledge. This case highlights the terrifying reality that law enforcement can deprive you of liberty, handcuff you, arrest you, jail you, even when you've committed no crime. Marcus only avoided serious consequences because he had legal expertise, video evidence, and resources. Most people don't have those advantages. Most people don't know their Fourth Amendment rights in detail. They don't know Terry versus Ohio. They don't know the legal standards for reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. And some officers count on that ignorance. They count on people being too scared, too uninformed, too intimidated to question them. But when you encounter someone like Marcus, someone who has argued these issues before federal judges, who knows exactly what the law says and exactly what violations are occurring, the power dynamic shifts. The badge doesn't automatically win. The uniform doesn't automatically command submission. Knowledge becomes the equalizer. And in this case, knowledge became a $2.8 million lesson. Let's address something that some people brought up when this story went viral. Some commenters online said that Marcus was asking for trouble. They said he should have just shown his ID. They said he should have complied now, complained later. They said his attitude escalated the situation. Here's the thing, Marcus didn't have an attitude. Listen to his voice on the recording. He's calm, respectful, and clear. What he had was knowledge. And to some people, a black man asserting his rights sounds like defiance. As for the argument that he should have just shown ID to avoid trouble, that's exactly the problem. That mindset assumes that constitutional rights are privileges you should surrender to avoid police harassment. That's not how rights work. Yes, there is a reality that asserting your rights during a police encounter can escalate the situation. Yes, people have been hurt, arrested, even killed for less. Marcus knew that risk. He calculated it, and he decided that his constitutional rights were worth defending. But the fact that exercising your rights is considered dangerous tells you everything you need to know about the problem. So what's the lesson from all of this? What should people take away from Marcus's story? First, know your rights, but know them thoroughly. It's not enough to say, I know my rights. You need to know which rights, under what circumstances, and what legal precedents support them. Marcus didn't just say, "I have rights." He cited specific court cases and constitutional amendments. Second, stay calm and document everything. Emotion is the enemy in these situations. Marcus never yelled, never insulted, never threatened. He simply documented every violation as it happened. That calm, clear documentation became the foundation of his lawsuit. Third, understand that your profession shouldn't matter, but it does. Marcus's legal expertise gave him an advantage most people don't have. That's a problem. Constitutional rights shouldn't require a law degree to enforce, but the reality is that officers often back down when they realize they're dealing with someone who knows the system. Fourth, demand accountability. Marcus didn't just accept dropped charges and move on. He pursued a federal lawsuit. He made the department change its policies. He ensured this wouldn't happen again, at least not without consequences. Fifth, use your platform for change. Marcus took his settlement and invested it back into helping others. He created systems to educate people who don't have his advantages. That's how individual cases become systemic change. Sixth, remember that silence is compliance. If Marcus had just surrendered his ID, gone along with the illegal detention, and not fought back legally, Deputy Kendricks would still be on the streets making these same stops. Sometimes fighting back is the only way to stop the pattern. One man, one driveway, 11 minutes, and $2.8 million. That's the power of knowledge. That's the importance of documentation. That's what happens when someone refuses to let constitutional violations go unchallenged. Final question for you. What's one thing you learned from this story that you didn't know before? Drop your answer in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. This story matters because it's not just about Marcus Thompson. It's about every Black professional who has been questioned for not belonging in their own neighborhood. It's about every person who has been told just comply when their rights are being violated. It's about every time someone with a badge assumed authority meant absolute power. It's about every unconstitutional stop that goes unchallenged because people don't know their rights or don't have the resources to fight back. Marcus's story shows that you can stand up for your rights. You can document violations. You can hold power accountable. And sometimes you can win. Not every story ends this way. Not every illegal arrest results in justice. Not every victim has legal expertise and video evidence, but this one did, and that matters. That's Marcus Thompson's legacy. Not just winning $2.8 million, but showing millions of people that constitutional rights aren't just words on paper. They're shields you can use, tools you can wield, and weapons you can deploy when power tries to crush you. This is the story of how a Black attorney schooled a racist cop on his own property. But more than that, it's a story about how knowledge, courage, and documentation can defeat even armed authority, because in America, the Constitution is supposed to be the highest law. And sometimes, just sometimes, it actually works.